So what I wanted to share with you today, I came across a room that had a really creative, unique way of using the wget command to prevesc all the way to root access, which I thought was pretty awesome. So let's dive in. I'm in TryHackMe. It's Wheel CTF is the name of the lab, and if you guys want to check this out, it's on TryHackMe for free. So I've got it all spun up. So let's dive right in. I'm connected, and we've got the ID RSA. So the foothold, which is not is to me is not that interesting. We're able to get a user account through his private key. Okay, so I'm just gonna start there by logging in via SSH. Okay, and we know his name, Jesse. The only thing I need to grab is this new IP, and we should log right in. Okay, perfect. And there we are. So we're Jesse now. So in order to get this flag, a handy trick I like, because you can just manually go through all these things, right? But one command I do, it's not always 100%, but it is a time saver when it works. So I know I'm looking for something with the name user in it, and I just want to stay in this directory and see. It pulls it up pretty quickly. We don't have to go searching for the whole drive, going through file to file. And there it is. Now, the reason I wanted to bring up this user flag is just observe the file format here, which is user underscore flag. So if we were going to go look for the crown jewels, right, which are most likely in the root directory, we would follow that same format. And we get a hit, okay, because we have permission denied, right? So if this was file that didn't exist, we would get a different error message, right? So we know this exists, we know this is an accurate hit, but we just don't have permission, obviously, because we're not root. Okay, and I'm just checking on the chat. It looks like this is going to be an easy day for me so far. So back to our lesson on wget. Now, this should be one of the second or third commands that you run when you get on a Linux box for enumeration. And what have we here? We have some sudo privileges without password use, which is great. And we can run wget. So if you know anything about wget, it's a file transfer command, right? And you can do remote file transfers back and forth. It's very handy, right? We use it all the time. And something else that you may not know about this command is the post file flag. So let's just pull that up, because there's a lot to this command, actually, more than I actually realize, and I still don't fully understand everything this does. But look at this list. And what I want to direct you to, I can pick it out of this real quick, is this guy. Look at this post file. Okay. And post file equals, and then the name of the file. And what does it do? It uses the post method and sends contents of a file, which sounds awfully like a file read, doesn't it? Which is exactly what we're going to demonstrate here. So kind of a neat feature of wget. So let's get that rolling. Okay, and this where we put the post file equals, and then what do you want to read? Well, let's go for the crown jewels, because isn't that what we're here for? And You'd think you'd be done, but there's one more item we need here, right? Missing URL, because again, this is for transferring files remotely. Now, you'd think, well, I'm just going to send it to me right here on the server, but that won't work, right? Because look what it does. It does something goofy. Uh, it actually it reads the index file in this case, because we're serving a website, and saves it. So not very helpful. But here's what we can do. We can send this to ourselves, and I can just remember my IP. So this is where netcat comes in handy on our attack box, right? So we'll just get a listener on our super elite port, okay? And what does that happen? So we're connected, and we have the MD5 hash of the contents of the root folder. Okay, great. So box is solved, right? Okay. But it gets better, because although the room author, and this is a great proof of concept and it's very benign and goes in the report, but I always like to go for maximum impact, right? Or at least be able, just to keep that tool sharp, the ability to have maximum impact. So let me show you how to like really own this server, right? And have carte blanche, right? To me, that is true root access. So think about what else you can do with this command. You can read any file on the system, right? So what else? What else would you like to read? Well, we know we don't have access to the shadow normally, do we? So let me make sure we're listening here. And what do we have? We have the shadow file, and there's Jesse's password hash in 512 bcrypt, it looks like, which we won't be cracking in this lifetime, most likely, but that's okay. So what else could we do with this? Well, what about the password file? And you're thinking, well, what are we going to do with the password file? Well, let me show you. So we download it. There we go. Let's create a file. Copy paste. Why not? All the same thing. And how many of you have ever created a user in the password file? Probably not often, because it's just not often available. But for those of you that don't know, this is something you can do if you have access to this file. So I'm going to take all this here, make sure we get this syntax right. And we're going to create a new user named hacker. And this X is just a placeholder, right? Because shadow is where they store all the hashes. And the X is just the variable, it's just the placeholder. So what we're going to do is, in place of that X, we're going to create our own hash. So how do you do that? Let me show you that real quick. Go to this box, because we want to stay compatible with the system we're going to infiltrate here, right? So I always like to run the commands. This is a standard command in Linux. And here's the syntax. A -1 will give you MD5 for the hash. We have to salt it, just a Linux thing. And I can call it anything here, any string. I'm going to call it hack. And then the final is just a simple password, right? To get us in and out quickly. And you can see we have our sweet little hash generated. Okay. So now all we have to do, finish this, is insert it where the X was. Just double check everything. Everything looks spot on. So I'm going to save it. Now, one thing I like to do, just to make sure we don't have any weird issues, is I'll check for what I call hidden control characters that sometimes some of these software programs will add. In this case, we're fine. I know you're saying, what about that $? But that's just a Mac OS thing. I am on a M1 Mac OS system right now, and that's just a Unix thing. But Unix and Linux, they talk to each other very well. Not worried about it. But if you did run into some weird control character or other hidden character that was hidden, which you could verify by the capital A file name. In our case, we're going to use the E, and like I said, we're good to go. But if you weren't, this is a really awesome tool I use all the time. It does way more than just this, but it'll do this DOS to Unix compatibility issue and clean up your file. So you just point it to the file and you're done. And you can apt install this. Kali Linux, it's available. Brew install on Mac. So it's a great little tool. Okay, so now what? We've got this file. Well, we got to get it back to our target, right? So let's just use Python to do that. Okay, and default is 8,000. Let's get it back and pull up that command that we used before. Change around a couple things on this command because now we're going the other way, right? So we're going to grab it. What's the name of it? It's password. And then the only other change here is a capital O for output. And then where is it going? It's going to the Etsy password directory and file. So that's what we're doing. We're grabbing it from our machine, right? Located here. And we're basically overwriting the Etsy password. And we can do that because we're running as root. So let's see if that actually works. That looks like a really good sign, 100%. And let's verify. And let's spell it correctly. And look at that. We have a newly installed hacker user. So let's see if it actually works. Switch to that user. And we are root. Holy moly. Look at that. There we go. So yeah, we are root. We can go anywhere, do anything, delete, all sorts of devil's work, right? And obviously, we could go right to the root directory because we are root. And there's our root flag. So I thought that was pretty neat, pretty unique, and I hope you did too.